I picked up a 3D metal model of a 47-foot Coast Guard lifeboat from Temu. This is the completed model. I got it for about $5, $6 from Temu. Watch out where you buy one if you decide to get one, because they can run up to about $15. I saw on eBay, and hell, if you go to Hobby Lobby, if they have it, it's probably 20 or 30 bucks there. Also, Temu doesn't charge you for shipping, so you don't have to worry about that added on cost. It's not a very difficult model to build, but it does have a few challenging parts. I'll go through step by step. I took pictures as I built it and give you some hints as I go along. It makes a nice looking finished model. I started building these models first as paper models. You can download the PDFs, print them out on a printer, you cut, fold, and glue. The metal models are much easier to build because they're easier to cut out, they're easier to roll or bend if you need to, and I like them. This is the 9th metal model I've built, and I have to say I enjoyed this one, and it's one of the larger ones I've built also. Here's a picture of the other ones. If you're interested, at the end of this video, I'll do a show and tell of these models and kind of tell you a little something about them. The package consists of 2 metal plates with the cutouts and the instructions, which are very limited. You should carefully look at the instructions and understand what you're putting together and the sequence that you've got to put it together in. Assembly is easy. You just stick the tab in the slot and you bend it over if it's in a visible area, or you twist it 90 degrees if it's kind of hidden or needs a tight connection. You start out by cutting out part number 1 through number 5. You locate them on the sheet. They're numbered. I lay the parts out, then decide what order they go together. These particular ones are rolled. You can use a pair of needle nose pliers to roll them, and also a shank of a small screwdriver. You can bend the metal around the shank. And this is how parts 1 through 5 go together. Next, you cut out parts numbers 6 through 9. This is the superstructure of the boat. There's parts 6 through 9 laid out, and also the part I just completed. Here's the superstructure folded into shape and all the small parts attached to it. Here's where you put in the part I built before, which looks like a winch for the tow line. Next is parts 10 through 13. This is the roof of the superstructure. You place the small pieces where they go on the roof. After you've completed the roof, you then place the windows, which is number 14, on the superstructure, then place the roof on top of that. And this is the completed superstructure, or this part of it at least, with the roof and the windows. Cut out parts 17 through 19, and 16 is times 2. Looks like I forgot to take a picture of the parts laid out, but basically you build the steering helm and the consoles and place them on the superstructure. Cut out parts 20, 21, and 22, and they're times 2 on these. These are the helm chairs. I completed each chair and then placed them on the deck, and then that collar around the bottom goes on last. This is the outside overhead. You cut out parts 23 to 27. And here's the parts laid out in order. I found it best to attach all the little doohickeys to the roof and then make the bends. The next parts you cut out is 27 through 30. This is your radar. This part, you got to look at it really carefully before you bend it because it's some complex bends. Here's the completed piece, but it still has a few more things to go on the top there. Cut out parts 31, 32, and 33. These are the life buoys and the rails for the upper deck. The life buoys are attached, the upper rail is bent into the correct position, and that little antenna is a tough one. This also completes the last step on page 1. The instructions show you placing the top on the stanchions and then cutting out part 34 and putting it on. Here's a caution for you. I worked late into the night in this section, and I placed the top on before I put the antenna on, so it made it really difficult to twist the tabs as tight as I wanted to get it. I did get the antenna on, but again, it's not as tight as I want, so it shakes a little bit when you move the model. Cut out number 35, which is the ladder. Bend the ladder into shape and then put it on the back of the superstructure, giving those tabs a twist. Cut out parts 36, 37, and 38, which are the handrails on the port and starboard side and the stokes that go on the port side. Put the tabs in the slot and give them a good twist, and that'll tighten them up nice. Do the same thing to the port side and attach the stokes to the superstructure. And with that, you complete the superstructure, or as they call it, Part A. With the superstructure completed, you then cut out the deck, which is number 39. Cut out parts 40 through 48. These are the items that go on the aft section of the deck. Here are the cutout parts laid out in numerical order, getting ready to put them on. Here's the completed aft deck section. I had difficulty figuring out part 47 and 48 on exactly how they went together. Bent the pieces more than I should have, which is something you don't want to do because if you bend it too much, the pieces will break. Even though it broke, I was still able to kind of shove it back in there and get it where it looks okay, but it's definitely not right. Cut out parts 49 to 55. This is for the foredeck. Here's the parts laid out in numerical order. The parts mounted, all of them went on with a tab twist. Cut out parts 56 and 57. There's 8 each of these. They're chocks and cleats. That completes the deck and also all the steps on page 2. Starting on the third and final page of the instruction, we're going to build part B, which is the side steps of the deck on the starboard side. It goes together pretty easily, but the difficult part is figuring out which way to bend the steps. And that completes part B. You cut out parts 59, 60, and 61 for part C. This part of the deck goes on the port side, and it's built pretty much the same way as part B. That completes part C. The next step is to put part A, the superstructure, and slide it onto the deck. On the starboard side, the superstructure slides into a slot on the deck. Then you attach part B and C to the superstructure, and that completes the upper half of the boat, the superstructure and the deck. It's all ready to go. So next we got to build the hull. To build the hull, cut out parts 62 through 67. Building the hull is pretty straightforward. Just kind of bend it to get the tabs through the slots and then click them in, and that'll form the hull. Once you get the tabs all locked down, then place your side bumpers on and the rudders on. The toughest part of this build is the transom, or part number 67. You got to get the main bend of the transom just right, and then the ends have to be really tightly curved, and you got to get that perfect to fit it into the slots. You slide the completed superstructure into the completed hull. It's a little difficult to get the tabs into the slots, but you keep lining them up and you'll get them. Once you get them in there, fold them over, and the hull will pretty much form to shape. You can kind of bend it a little bit if you need to, but it'll look like a boat. And the boat is now complete. It wasn't difficult, and it did have some challenges. If I built another one, I'd do a much better job, I think. As I mentioned in the first part of the video, this is the 9th of these metal models that I've built. If you're interested in them, I'll cover each one here and give a little talk about them. I'm not doing these in any particular order, just kind of maybe the way I filmed them. This one is one of my favorites. It's one of the Mars rovers. I think either Curiosity or Perseverance. I'm not sure if I got the name right, but it's the one of the ones that landed with the airbags instead of the sky crane. Even though this model looks rather complicated and would be a difficult build, I remember it really wasn't that hard, and it went together rather easily. I would recommend this model even for a beginner. It's not very difficult, and it really makes a very nice display model. The next model is the Space Shuttle Discovery. I would consider this a beginner level model. It was really pretty easy to build. It definitely makes a nice display model, and it's the only model that I built that is painted. There's some other ones I built that had like gold colored metal, but they weren't painted. There's a difference. It's really easy to chip the paint off, so you got to be really careful in your bending and building the model. You can display the shuttle on the stand or off the stand, just sitting on the runway. Overall, a model I recommend. Steam Engine 844. This is a 482 configuration steam locomotive. Not sure what it is though. I would consider this a beginner's model. It's really easy to build. I think it's probably one of the most easiest to build ones that I've built. I would say the size of the model is very close to an N-gauge scale model train. But don't put it on the track or you'll cause a short circuit. If you're a train enthusiast like me, this is a good one to build. The Apollo Lunar Module, or LEM. This is the first metal model that I ever built, and of course it's probably one of the most difficult ones to build that's out there. I tackled it because I've built plenty of paper models before, so I wasn't new to this type of modeling. But I'll have to say that if you haven't built a metal model before, don't do this one. Save it for later. But I had to build 2 of them. And here's the second one I built. When I saw this model, I had to have it, so I just bought it immediately. You can see this one has the gold colored metal, but it doesn't chip off. It's a lot easier to build the LEM the second time around. A pro tip is the 4 thrusters on the LEM, leave those off and put them on last because they just get in the way as you build. The command and service module are really easy to build, so that's not too much on top of building the LEM already, but it really does make a nice looking display model. Again, I recommend that if you're going to build this one, build a few other ones that are simpler before you do it, and you'll come out a lot better in the long run. This model also comes with a version of the plaque that they left on the moon that was on the leg of the LEM. The plaque reads, "Here men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon, July 1969 AD. We came in peace for all mankind." The names and signed by the 3 astronauts and Richard Nixon, the President of the United States. And this is the model of the rocket that carried the Apollo lunar module to the moon, the Saturn V, on the pad. This is another nice looking display model and really not that hard to build, so I'd recommend it as a beginner's model also. I think I could have done better on the Apollo command module up there, but that's a really small part to build and really a tight bend. But I think all in all, it turned out pretty well. This next model is a Klingon cruiser. It's not from the original series. It's either from the movies or one of the later versions of Star Trek that came out. Nice looking model, and even though it looks like it would be a difficult build, it was rather easy. Not the hardest one, but not the simplest one either. I remember that I got this model from Hobby Lobby, and it was over in their sales department where they put stuff on sale for cheap, and I think I paid like $2 for it. So at that price, I couldn't pass it up, and plus I always liked the Klingon cruisers anyways. I think they really look pretty cool. And the last model I have to show you is, man, it really needs no introduction. It's the Voyager spacecraft. Could be either Voyager 1 or Voyager 2. I guess you could buy 2 of them and have both of the Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. Makes a very nice display model, and it's a little hard to build. It wasn't too difficult, but there's a couple parts that are very, very tight fits. Let me put it that way. Well, that's the end of the video. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, and share. It really helps out. And we'll catch you on the next video.